So you think you might want to install a wood floor. Well, this video will give you some insight as to the process of installing a wood floor and help you determine whether or not you want to take this kind of a project on. For a project this big, we're using this kind of a sander, and the blade has diamond blades on it, as you can see, and it's done a real good job. This concrete right here was sticking up too high, about 1/4 of an inch, because of the foundation problem, and that machine that you just saw was used to grind that down. When they get ready to sand the floor, this same machine will be used to sand the floor. In order to get the wood tile up, here's some of the tools that are being used. Give you some idea what you might want to buy or rent before you take on such a project. This machine right here, you probably just want to rent because it'd be too expensive to buy for a one-time job. Okay, we're getting ready to sand this room. So what we did is we put all the furniture over here against this wall, and then we put up this plastic here to control the dust. And we're not finished putting it up. We got to get it up closer to the ceiling, but you get the idea. We are putting up plastic to control the dust. We're getting all the furniture off of this part of the floor right here. We'll lay the flooring, then we can put this furniture here back over here and do that part over there. It may be self-evident, self-explanatory, but it doesn't hurt to make a point of calling this to your attention. Thought you'd like to see the finished product. Notice the difficult cuts that have to be made. One of the things they do is they cut this off right here so that they can slide that wood right under there, and you'll need a special saw to make that cut. You'll also notice that they finish the job off with quarter round. And then if you come in here, this is the living room. Really turned out beautiful. This is the transition piece that goes from your hardwood floor right into your kitchen. And of course they've got this tape here to hold it together while the glue dries. If you look at the very beginning of the film that I showed you, you will notice that a person was, floor layers were going to put these two pieces together. And if you watch real closely, if that's where they wanted to mark it, they flipped it around like, well, let me put it up here. Here we go. Do this. Let's say that they want this piece to go to that wall, and they mark it like that. Well, instead of doing that, what they did is they flipped it over and put that piece there, and then they made their cut. So when they turned it around, you've got a factory edge against the factory edge. That's pretty important, because if you just cut it here, number one, you'll destroy the tongue and groove. Number two, you won't have a factory edge. The reason why I'm doing with this upside down is so you can see it have better contrast against the flooring. Obviously, it would look like this. Okay. The other thing I'd point out is, as I said, this is tongue and groove. There's your groove, there's your tongue, and they fit together like that. And when you saw them hitting it with a hammer, a rubber mallet, to push it in there to get a real good fit. And for the end pieces, if you look real closely, they were hitting it with a rubber mallet like that to get a real tight fit in that direction. Just a couple of points that I wanted to make. Once the job is finished, they will put quarter round down. That's what you're looking at right there. And I thought I'd give you just kind of an overall view of the whole room. Well, it's not very good. Here we go. The floor turned out beautiful. Let me tell you up front, there are some tough cuts that have to be made, but in this case right here, they take a saw and they cut right there the thickness of the lumber or the flooring so they can slide the flooring underneath that. That's a pretty good point for me to make. Well, you're in for a real special treat today, and you're in for a surprise. The treat is, I have with me here Harriet, who has been in the carpet business for over 30 years. She's had her own store floors, a couple of them, and she's laid all kinds of carpet and any kind of flooring you care to mention. She's just a walking encyclopedia on flooring. And so I'm going to take advantage of this knowledge and ask her some questions. And I'm going to try to ask the kind of questions that you would ask if you had the opportunity that I now have to ask. And then I've got a surprise for you. And the surprise is, the purpose of this whole video is not to show you how to lay a wooden floor. There's too much involved, and I couldn't begin to cover all the ins and outs. I couldn't do the subject justice. I teased you a little bit with that opening introduction, and maybe that'll give you enough courage to want to try it, but that's not the purpose of this tape, because there's too many things that can go wrong with the project. It's too risky. So the surprise is, I'm not recommending that you do it, but if you want to, then I want to give you some idea of what kind of flooring to get and some do's and don'ts, and we'll go from there. So, by the way, the flooring project that you saw is one that Harriet herself and her crew was putting down, and I just was fortunate enough to be working on this job site while she was doing this. I've known her for about 10 years, and every once in a while our paths will cross. And anytime I need carpeting laid or flooring put down, this is the lady I contact. So with that in mind, let's start by covering what kind of flooring you might want to put down. There's several options out there on the marketplace, and you may not have a clue what your options are, which one is best suited for your budget and for your needs. So with that, we'll start with the most expensive flooring option that you could pick, and that would be real hardwood floors. And with that in mind, I'm going to have Harriet tell you a little bit about putting in a real hardwood floor, pluses and minuses, and what you're up against. Harriet?
Well, it comes in several different sizes. Half inch is the most popular size, and you put it down just like you do any other hardwood floor, and you get it all down, and then the refinishers come in, and they put a coat of, they sand it first, and then they put a coat of stain. They come and sand it again, and they put another coat of stain, and they sand it again, and they put 2 coats of polyurethane on it. And that's how you get your real hardwood floor. It's very expensive.
Well said. I think you could gather from that elaborate process that's a very expensive way to go. And you're probably, for that reason, you're probably only going to find that in your very high-dollar homes. So we're now going to go down one notch to something that's probably half the cost. Would you agree it's about half the cost?
Yeah.
About half the cost, and it's called engineered wood. Okay. Some pluses and minuses on that?
Well, it comes already stained and polyurethane, and all you have to do is put it in, and it's pretty easy to take care of. You just run a damp mop over it, and you can, it's hardwood, but it is, part of it is real hardwood, and part of it is, I guess, particle board on the back of it. And it snaps together just like all the other, and you can sand it one time, and that's all. But it's beautiful when it's installed.
As a matter of fact, that's what we put down today. That's like she said, half of it is plywood, but the other half, the finished half, is real wood, and it's stained, it's polyurethane. You put it down, and you don't have to do anything more to it. Once you get it down, you've got the finished product. But if it gets scratched, like moving furniture, or the dogs scratch it, like she said, you can sand it one time, and then stain it in polyurethane, and you're good to go. With a real hardwood floor, you can scratch it any number of times and still sand it down and it'll be as good as new. So that's the big advantage of engineered wood. So the next one down would be
Laminate.
Laminate, okay. Laminate.
Laminate comes in 4-inch pieces, about 6 foot long or 4 foot long, and it's been real popular, but it's kind of losing its flair. I always used the top brand, which was Wilson Art, and they went out of business, but there's some other good ones out there. The price is not that much different from your engineered wood, and it's pretty durable though. I mean, you just mop it kind of with a real damp mop and put it down, and it has a cord around that comes with it, and it's real pretty when you get it all down. The only problem with laminate is you have to put a heavy pad on it, which is acoustic pad, and nobody sells that acoustic pad. You have to ask for it because they put that little thin pad down, and it's not worth a flip.
It has a hollow sound to it
Yeah.
when you walk on it. So very noisy.
Like tippy tap, when you walk on it, and which you don't have with any of your woods. But it's pretty durable as far as that goes. It's kind of going out of style now, and your vinyls are coming back in. Used to we didn't sell any vinyls, but they're coming back in now.
So I would think then, based on what you just said, it would be a better choice to go with engineered wood instead of laminate.
Yes,
Not that much difference in cost, but it's going to last longer.
You have to have the same kind of tools to put laminate down that you do engineered any kind of wood, because you got to have saws and so you got to have a saw. You got to be prepared to put any of it down.
The laminate, to my way of thinking, is once you scratch it, you have to live with that scratch. Am I correct? So that in itself, to me, is a big reason not to use laminate. When it's scratched, you live with it. But if you put down engineered wood, then you can sand it down at least one time and stain it and get it to look the way it should. So my vote would be for engineered wood. One advantage, the only big advantage I see to laminate is it's a lot easier to put down. You don't have to put that glue down.
Yeah.
You just put your pad down and put that interlocking pieces together, and you're good to go. But my vote would be for putting the glue down and using the engineered wood. Can you think of any other points? Okay. I guess the last point I'd make is, and I want to stress this, is you wouldn't want to take this kind of a project on unless you're a pretty handy person yourself and you're willing to have a number of different tools. To do this kind of job, you need a miter saw, you need a trim saw, that's for making close cuts, you need a table saw, and then you need all those other tools that I showed you, the hand tools that I showed you earlier on, and you need to be comfortable with power tools, and you need to have some knowledge on how to do general carpenter work before you take on a project like this. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying do it with caution. Maybe just do one room and see how that turns out, and if your confidence is sufficient at that point, then go ahead and have a go at more than just one room. So I bet that surprises you that I'm not showing you 3 different kinds of floors to put in and how to put them in. But as I said, I couldn't do the subject justice. And I'm just delighted that Harriet could be with me here today to give you some additional insight.